Let go, let go, let go. Let go, let's go. Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. All right, y'all. Jam Boom Boom, aka the World Premiere, is back with episode 5 of the World Premiere E-Series, where I'm writing 2 plays completely online. Those plays, the title of the play, of one of them is called The Black Jester. And the second title is called Think Pink. The Black Jester is inspired by Martin Lawrence's The Black Knight, and also the film that I'm going to be breaking down today called The Court Jester, starring Danny Kaye. Think Pink is a biographical, comedic, fictional series about the rise of the GOAT, Nicki Minaj. So, about a few months ago, I was on my story, having like an episode on my story, and I'm just like, you know what? I want to. What's up, Mark? I want to write a play online. I've never seen it done. I'm in the alley. I'm in the lane of like doing shit that hasn't been done yet. So we're writing this completely online. I'm showing the process, the storyline, just from start to finish. And so this is just the process. I like to talk things out. I like to watch things and get inspired because I'm not afraid to say I got inspired by this, and then giving credit where credit is due. And then Media Mythos, which is like a sub-segment, is going to be a breakdown of film and other media where we just slice it up and talk about our favorite movies or our favorite songs, our favorite music videos. But we're looking at it through different lenses. So let's jump right into it. If you are interested in joining the live, let me know. I'm going to leave the link right here. It's in the comment section. If you have something to contribute to the Court Jester. Now, a lot of people have seen the Court Jester. It's one of those like, well, it was released in 1955. Unless you're like a movie buff, we can come up and chop it up about the Court Jester. Everything else, leave that shit over there. All right. So we're gonna hop right into it. So there's 5 specific lenses that I look at through, like when watching film. I mean, obviously to just enjoy it, right? But just so many years of watching movies and then getting a deeper understanding of what the writer's trying to portray, the producers are trying to portray, most likely the director, and then the actors. It kind of trickles down, and then the audience, the person watching it. So there's how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have about 6 right now, and I have my notes here. I might put them right here, or like put them up a little bit. So I'm gonna be looking down. Like, so we have the aesthetic and the drama performance, which is just what you see. Aesthetics is just what is pleasing to the eye, like the aesthetics of my wet hair right now, like wet hair. That's the aesthetic. And the dramatic performance is literally just how the actor is acting within the context of the story. Directional style, we can talk about just how the movie is shot. Mostly all the films that I've broken down or discussed so far have been Hollywood produced films. So like they're all A1 when it comes to the camera. 4K, like they're pretty good. Excuse me. The context, that's another lens. So this is the environment of the film. And like I just said, like the industry, like it can be like an industry film or a non-industry film. We can talk about what year it was produced, what year it was released, and what was going on in the news and in the world at that time. Because a lot of the films often, if they're not talking about what's going on currently in media, they're going to be kind of like projecting, like, for example, when a bunch of space and alien films were released in like, or alien and futuristic media was released in like the 40s and 50s, because they were kind of hearkening to the future. And in terms, honestly, like kind of creating what the future could look like. But that's just using the projection of certain images to create in our mind, the audience. So I'm just the audience, even though I write too. But I'm just the audience. What it is that we could look forward to for the future. So going down 3 more lenses, the Esoteric References. So this can be allegory. This is like my favorite lens if I were to pick one. Just kind of looking at the allegory, magic and myths, and religious references. And the Court Jester, the Court Jester is automatically tied to kingdomhood, queendomhood, authoritarianism. So it's religious out. Subliminal codes, so this can be colors, numerology. Also, you know what I was thinking? Like subliminal codes can also can tie into dramatic performance too. Just like especially comedic actors, comedic performers will often, you know, like that non-verbal kind of communication, like the wink wink, nudge nudge, like that's subliminal coding as well, especially if the actor is breaking the fourth wall. And then we have astrology and more. In the Court Jester, there is kind of like a witch, kind of like aide to the princess, and she's also an astrologer too, um, which I which I which I think is cool. It like blows my mind. That's how I got kind of like caught up in that because I'm just like, whoa, like look at that, like an astrologer kind of like being like an aide to like authority and like helping them out. But the princess was like, she was flunked. Like she was just like drunk on love. Like she like that was just why she had the witch by her side, just to kind of fill her up her head, like your prince is coming, shit like that. So yeah, that's the 5 lenses: aesthetic, drama, performance, directional style, context, esoteric reference, subliminal codes, astrology, and more. I'm not expecting for anyone to have seen this film just because it's an old time film. If you're into like watching movies or if you're into comedy, then yeah. Other than that, I'm gonna just talk it up, chop it up. If there's anything in the comments, I'm gonna read. If y'all got any like about the film, I'm gonna read that. But other than that, I'm about to jump right into it. So I have my handy dandy tablet. I'm gonna mute it because you know I ain't trying to get copyrighted. This is where I gotta put that like educational thing. Like this is the educational act of 19 or 17, 7, you know, something like that. But this is I ain't trying. I'm just teaching and utilizing copyrighted material to bring about a new curriculum. That's it. So this is the intro. So you know, was shot in Technicolor. Inception with the all right, Paramount on top of the mountain. I'm not gonna be in front of the I'll do the sound effects. But it's starring Danny Kaye, and you're gonna see, I'm just gonna show a little bit of it. I mean, you can already see, just look at this, look at the borders. Oh man, he's the GOAT. So here. So Danny Kaye is the actor's name, and you can look him up. It's Danny. It's K Kaye, and his like not only just him as a performer, but specifically the films that he chose to perform in. It says a lot. I like films that talk about like context of society and whatnot, and definitely, you know, not only is he super talented, but the films that he chose kind of points you in the direction of, you know, kind of like a corrupt government or a corrupt authority system, and he's kind of oftentimes playing the fool. No pun intended. The Court Jester is very much the fool archetype, kind of like naive, is meant to just entertain. But he ends up, you know, kind of bringing about justice, just like being himself. This kind of naive characteristic about himself. He ends up being in the right place, right time. He's on the right side of justice, quote unquote, and he brings about, you know, change. So this is just him, and this is the introduction. In the introduction, he's basically like talking about what's going to happen in the film, but more so, Technicolor, more so, what it was like for the actors and the crew and the stage crew to be to make the film. It's hilarious. Whenever you got time to, I would suggest go watching this film if you're a film buff, if you're into movies like that. But yeah, so one of the first notes I have was like this intro, you know, like right off the bat, it's a farce. So, you know, it's not necessarily saying like we're down with the government, but it doesn't even specifically, actually, does it reference England? It might reference England. I don't know, but it's like, even then, like it's a farce. So it's not serious. You know, they don't name any actual kings in history, but it is a farce nonetheless. And so this whole idea of what it means to perform royalty, and then what it means to kind of perform resistance, which is the political resistance movement to whoever is on the throne. So there is that crooked king archetype. So he claims the throne via murder. You know, there's also the crooked head of security, who's like, you know, the next to the second in command for the king, and he has his own story going on with himself. So basically, you know, because the kingdom was taken, you know, in crookedly, you know, by crooked means, corruption's going to run through the kingdom. Corruption's going to run through the system, and that it does. So I wrote down here, they're threatened by the rightful family of the throne because they know that they do not rightfully deserve to be in royalty. So like the child lives. So there's this whole mythology that's inside of the film that basically, you know, the king who's currently in place at the start of the film, he slaughtered the entire royal family, slaughtered them, made sure nobody was alive, took the throne by force. But, and this is that mythological, like baby Jesus, you know, there's this baby that lives who is a descendant of the heirs, or is an heir of the royalty, a descendant. Words. And he's being protected by this group of people who are, you know, they're waiting for the right moment to attack, to claim the throne again, so the child can sit inside the throne or sit on the throne. And I was thinking, as I was saying that, I was thinking about they have this like funny bit where like the proof that the baby is actually the heir to the throne is this kind of like birthmark that looks like a grape or something like that. And like they do this thing where they flash the birthmark and and like everyone's like bowing down like, oh, the king, and he like flashes the birthmark and it's like on the baby's butt, and they're like that's the farce, that's the satire of it, and people are like bowing down like, yes, your highness, yes, your royalty. So Danny Kaye's character is just he's aloof. So what's happening in the beginning is that or it's a musical as well. I'm starting to like musicals. I'm gonna run this back and be like, oh shit, why I say that? But I'm starting to like musicals. I can see myself writing a musical. But anyway, so the opening sequence with Danny Kaye's character, I believe he plays, his name is Hawkins, something Hughes Hawkins or something, and he opens up this. He has this opening number where he's portraying the Black Fox, and the Black Fox is another mythological creature, mythological character, who is basically like a Robin Hood type of character, and he's kind of the face of the resistance movement. Everyone inside of the kingdom knows about the Black Fox, so they're like, all right, make sure you look out for the Black Fox, you know, like guards, be on guard, you know, like the Black Fox symbolizes kind of like this resistance to the corrupt kingdom. So Hawkins, the character, is opening up this number where basically he's pretending to be the Black Fox, but you know he's wearing the outfit. He has this trope of like minions, you know, little people, you know, who are just like his go-to. In the film, they say that, you know, they escaped from the circus and they all just followed him. There's like hundreds of them too. It's so funny. I mean, that goes along with the comedy. But there's so many of those, you know, he's got his little squad with him, you know, and they're doing this opening number, and then they get kind of like they have to stop the number because the real Black Fox is like, hey, stop fooling around. You want to be, so like the resistance movement, they end up like kind of adopting the clowns, and Hawkins is one of them, and all of his other clown friends. He's like, stop. If you want to be a part of this resistance movement, you got to take this seriously. He's like, all right, I'll do anything, you know, because he's down with the cause, you know, but he also just needs a place to stay because he's a gypsy, basically, wandering clown, a wandering entertainer. And this is set in like medieval times, obviously. So, you know, like that's like the lowest of the low when it comes to society. An artist. Ugh. But so, you know, the Black Fox is like, all right, you got to take care of the baby, you know, like that. We're going to give you a job. If you want to be a part of what we got going on, you got to have a job. So his job, Hawkins' new job, he was not once the clown, now he's like the caregiver. And he's matched up with the female character who's like, she's just a boss. What is her name? I was writing down my own little. Yeah, I don't I should know her name. I can look it up real quick. But basically she is the head of the entire operation, as far as, you know, she's setting up so that when they do their when the political, you know, the resistance movement, they you know, switch over power. My bad, I'm also like looking up the characters. Her name is Glennis. Oh, no. Well, that's her actual name, but her name in the film is Mae Jean. Shout out to Glennis Johns. Yeah, Mae Jean. And yeah, R.I.P. R.I.P. to everybody. Everybody all old. I'm looking at the I can use my tablet to do that too. But yeah, I was looking at them. Everybody all old, all R.I.P. You know, and shout out to the people who's still alive. Like they were doing this way before many of us. They were doing this. It was like we acted. They probably started off in theater, to be honest. But yeah. So So she's the head. Her name is Maid Jean, and she's the head of the operation. She's a boss. You know, she's not that feminine archetype of. She's not the heroine or the. I mean, she is that. She could be the heroine, but she's not the damsel in distress. That's what I was gonna say. She's not that. She's very much she's like forthright, and you know, she's on the money. Like a boss. She's running it. So there's this moment there's tension between the boss, you know what I mean, because you know she is the boss, but it's like what she ends up revealing to Hawkins, there's this moment where like they're kind of forced to cuddle, and they're on their way to they're on their way to the kingdom, and they're kind of like forced to cuddle. They're kind of forced to get close, Hawkins and Maid Jean. And she ends up revealing, you know, like, you know, because Hawkins, like, you know, from what I've seen, you know, Captain, because they call her Captain in the film, like, from what I've seen, you know, you're a headstrong woman, you know, like, what do you need a man for? You know, because that's brought up you know, some slights to feminism, some kind of like pointing towards like feminist theory. And, you know, the character ends up revealing, like, you know, like my father made me this way. I don't necessarily want to be like this, but there's no other way to claim justice. There's no other way to get what's rightfully ours. I have to be forthright. I can't be dependent on no man. That's basically what she's saying. So they end up having a moment of intimacy. And what happens is that's cut short. This court jester walks into the manger middle of the night, and he's on his way to the kingdom as well. He's on his way to, you know, the castle. And you know, he comes in, he's like, my name is Giacomo. He's like, you know, I'm Giacomo, I have it, the king of jesters and jesters of kings. So he's a professional jester, like he's a real ass entertainer. And so Captain, in her mind, she's like, I know how we're gonna get into the kingdom. I know how we're gonna sneak in. So she hits Giacomo upside the head. And Hawkins, the clown turned, you know, worker for the resistance movement, he then takes on the identity of Giacomo, the court jester. And I'm going to stop right there as far as like notes goes, because that entire idea of just Hawkins' character being able, like chameleon-like, it reminds me of just being like kind of like a blank slate, but being able to stretch yourself out characteristic wise and like trait wise to fit other archetypes. That shout out to Danny Kaye, because not only is that skill and talent, but it makes for an incredible storyline too. Being able to play multiple characters in one story, like that shit is like lit. And so Hawkins' character takes on this identity of the court jester, and he stole the identity. There's a lot of subplots going on, because again, you know, it has this underlying, the film I'm talking about now, the film has a lot of underlying political political undertones, like kind of like pointing at corruption, and it shows that, because it shows that through the court jester, just the character itself. A lot of the characters kind of rely on this character, the central character, in order for them to get what they want. So even now that I'm saying that, I realize that is the point of a central character, of a central star. I think of, we rely so much on the sun for a lot of different things, and I mean life, you know, life here, life on Earth, and then just thinking how that's generated through solar power panels, plants, you know, need it. This is I'm saying it like in a very trivial way. I mean, it's common sense, but this idea of a central character not necessarily being the good guy, but just being that central source of energy for other characters, and a lot of it is for selfish gain. So once the court jester is inside, they also, I'm gonna jump around really quickly, but the kingdom is there's the king, there's the head of security, there's the king's men, like the councilman. Then he has a daughter, the princess, and the princess has an aide who is a witch. So already thinking about these archetypes too, and how the movie, or how the film shows kind of these positions in society of like less than, but it shows their internal value, their internal treasure. Shout out to Lone Charm. It shows their internal treasure, even though they're at the lowest of the low when it comes to society and how the world was made. This worldview was created. It shows the peasants, the you know, like peasants, but you know, kind of like entertainers, the circus clowns, the witches. And you know, the witch, obviously she works a few spells, but her position to be able to assist the princess, I can imagine that, you know, kind of like living in luxury, you know, like she's not being burned at the stake. You know, there were a couple references to that, in a comedic way, of course, but you know, like burn the witch, you know, but it's like no, she helps me. The princess is so dramatic. She's like, if you burn her, I shall die. You know, there's stuff like that. And shout out to all the actors too, because they have this very high like Shakespearean training. You can see in the film. I feel like I can show a little bit, but I just got to keep it on mute. I'm not trying to get copyrighted. Like, look at me. Look at me. I'm not trying. What I'm going to gain from that? What I'm going to gain from that? So this is like later in the film. This is like the Court Jester film, or like the scene, the Court Jester scene. But yeah, all they seem to have very great like Shakespearean training. They all stay in their accent. They stay in the character, high kind of like high vocabulary, or just like superior vocabulary. And the Jester plays on that. It's maybe I'll come up with a rating system. For now, I'll just say you should watch it. It's if you just like want to watch something that maybe is kind of out of what you normally watch, and that's what I like to do. I did that so much that now everything that I watch, I like, for example, like I'm not going to be watching something yesterday and it will not match up to what I'm watching today, that kind of thing. So if you're looking for something like out of the normal, what you're usually used to watching, hit up The Court Jester, starring Danny Kaye. What's going on, Endless Abilities? So they're inside of the resistance political movement is inside of the kingdom now. So it's stakes are high. The maid Jean is inside, and she inside of the kingdom. And I said this during the viewing. Inside of the kingdom, she is just seen as like a maid, because the knights kind of have this moment. The king is like, all right, the knights have did well on their latest exhibition or whatever, maybe some battle or something, bringing all the finest maids, you know. And the maid Jean ends up getting swept in with like this crowd of ladies that just, you know, come in just so the knights can have a good time, the soldiers can have a good time. So she ends up getting swept inside of the kingdom with that. The Court Jester is inside Hawkins, who is playing the Court Jester. But get this is the subplot in which stakes are raised. And this can also be where it gets a little complicated if you're not necessarily following the dialogue. Because if you're just watching the film, it's great physicality, but if you tune into the dialogue, it's high. Like you gotta be able to follow, because it's also really quick, but there's also a lot that's going on. And I'm challenging myself by watching like a film that I never watched before. I literally watched this one time when I was doing research for the Black Jester, and then I saw the Court Jester. I was like, oh, this looked cool. Wait, I mean, obviously it's been done before. I wasn't like, damn, it's been done before. But I'm like, wait a second, let me like watch it and get some inspiration. I fell in love with it right away. Danny Kaye has also other films. I just watched one called The Inspector General, which I'm like, dang, that kind of inspires me too for this. It's a lot, but let me stick to just this one film. So yeah, it's one of the submissions. Now that the Court Jester is inside of the kingdom, the Court Jester has a submission, and that's to make the princess fall in love. So this is kind of like the witch's name is Griselda. So Griselda has this, you know, like the princess is like, I'm going to kill you. You said that the love of my life is going to be here. I'm going to kill you if that's not the case. Like, you gonna die. She's like, oh no. She looks outside of the window, and it's the Court Jester right inside. And she's like, your love is but a mile away, something like that. Like, he'll be here anytime. So Griselda sees. So that's one of the submissions. The second submission, Ravenhurst, is the name of the head of security, and he has this goal to take out the king and be the king. Actually, I'm trivializing that. I actually don't know what his submission is. Like, I don't know what his mission is, but I think it's something like that. Look, don't hold me to that. But basically, it's to assassinate the king, because Giacomo, who was the original Court Jester, who got knocked upside the head by Maid Jean, was also a trained assassin. So he had this ulterior motive. So the ulterior motive, like Ravenhurst, who was the second in command to the king, hired Giacomo to assassinate the king. Like I feel like. I feel like I'm on, like, I don't know, like just being able to like do it like that, like or narrate it like that. I'm just like, and this would have been, and that's how the end of the story ends. Like, I think I might do something like that. Like, and anyway. So Ravenhurst has this mission to assassinate the king. So as soon as the Court Jester gets inside the kingdom, he's like taken by Griselda, who puts a spell on him. It has a lot to do with snaps. There's this whole snap scene. Anytime you get a snap sheet, he snaps out of being like, you know, kind of like this crooner type of character. And then when he snaps back, he goes back to like not knowing anything. That's kind of like the spell that Griselda puts on him. And then Ravenhurst snatches the Court Jester and is like, you know, do you have your mission all set? The thing is, the Court Jester is talking to Ravenhurst because beforehand he's told by Maid Jean that there's someone who works for the resistance movement inside of the kingdom. Because Ravenhurst approaches him first on some like low key, like behind closed doors, like, hey, you know what you got to do. The Court Jester is instantly opened up to him, thinking that he's working for the resistance movement, but Ravenhurst has his own selfish agenda, his own selfish ulterior motive. So it's like, that's not the case at all. So that is kind of like the confusion in the comedy as well, because now I'm thinking like confusion is great for comedy. When you're confused, you know, you don't know no better, or like you just laugh, and that causes for a lot of the comedy, a lot of the laughs, because a lot of the subplots get twisted and turned like a pretzel. So all the while, the resistance movement, like they're super, super close to the king. There's a lot of things done behind closed doors as far as like deals that are going on, like with the witch, with Ravenhurst, the security guard. And there's a lot of like, someone might open the door and they're like, oh, nothing, you know, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of, oh, who were you talking to? Oh, nobody, you know? So, and that kind of harkens to the 50s type of comedy, where you are keeping something a secret from somebody else, and this idea that you know, whatever's being said, you know, behind that door is like super, super important, but it's like we don't want to have that information leak out until the end of the film, where everything just like ends up bursting. And so it just, you know, it's like that kind of like it builds up and it builds up and explodes with laughter. Yeah, the Jester scene that I showed earlier, that's the central scene of the film, and it's basically a comedic. And now that I'm even thinking, because I can show a little bit of it, I think. But now that I'm thinking about it, something that this film and the pellet with poison, something that this film and the Court Jester and the Black Knight have in common is that Jester scene, because even in the Black Knight, Jamal's character, Martin Lawrence's character Jamal, he ends up saying that he's also a Court Jester because he has this gift of gab and he's basically just trying to survive. So it's that whole idea that like being able to be up close to the king also is that a whole idea like you can live or die. If you're not pledging allegiance, you're against us, you know? So because that's just how they live. That's how they roll back then. That's how they roll right now. But both of these films, the Court Jester and the Black Knight, have this Jester scene where, you know, the stakes are high right now. I don't know if you saw earlier, there was this basket, but that's literally where the baby was, the heir to the throne was inside of that basket. So basically like what you see kind of like what might look like nervous energy from the Jester is basically him showing that those high stakes. So he's performing for the king, and in the Black Knight, there's that performance for the king too, where it's like, this is life or death. But yeah, he gets the crowd riled up. That's what the Jester is there for. When the king has a party, the Jester is there to turn it up, and that he did. Be watching that like he did that. No, yeah, it makes for, and that's a comedy, like a technique in comedy, where because these words are just so like, oh, you know, like, and you got to hold on to so many secrets, and you can't say it this way because you might be exposing something. It's like that ends up being comedic. That ends up being, yeah, when you're the observer of that thing. So yeah, I just realized that, like, then that's something that I want to put into the Black Jester, this whole idea of performing for the king, but the stakes are super high. It's not just performing, it's to save your life. Just reading through my notes. The Jester scene, yep, the Black Knight scene, and yeah, I made that. There's a duel. There's a duel. Excuse me, there's an arranged marriage. So I guess the lens that I'm looking at this through would be kind of context, because to have a sort of slight idea about how royalty works, or just how like family ties, mob ties work, is that entire idea that everything stays inside the family. Marriages, for example. And so this film shows that, obviously, because it's about royalty and authoritarianism. So that this entire idea that everything stays inside the family, everything stays inside of royalty. So the princess has an arranged marriage, and she's not in love. In the arranged marriage is a political deal. It's basically a political agreement with another kingdom. And this prince travels for so far away to come and take the hand of the princess. But the princess, she has her own mind, you know, and the kings can't say anything about it because, well, there was no queen. There was no queen in this film. Ding, 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 ding. That was a boom right there. There was no queen in this film. So there's no kind of like matriarch voice of reason. There's only the patriarch, and he just loves his daughter so much. He's not going to argue with her. He's not going to say, well, you have to. He doesn't show that kind of masculine force, that machismo. He kind of just goes along with it until the knight gets there. But by the time the knight gets there, who is set up to arrange a marriage with the princess has already fallen in love with the court jester, who everyone thinks his name is Giacomo. And so the king finds out. He's like, wait, what? It's all rushing to me. He's like, wait, what? You fell in love with them? No, because according to mob ties, I keep saying mob ties, but according to you know, royal family traditions, you know, powerful authoritarian systemic traditions, you have to be a knight to marry the princess. So there's this comedic scene where the entire the cycle of becoming a knight, they even said it might take 4 or 7 years to become a knight. They have this comedic scene, and it's a montage of basically all the kind of activities or the things that you need to do in order right here, it takes 3 years to become a knight, and there's tests. So there's this whole idea that the king and the king's men basically want to set up the court jester to get killed in the duel. So they speed up the entire process of becoming a knight. In the tests, they have certain tests, and I wrote down these tests because, you know, just symbolic. And I guess now we're looking at it through that lens, the symbolic lens, which is you must scale a wall in full armor. So, you know, they dress up the court jester up, and he's looking up. They're like, wait, what? So they basically, the king's men basically just like lift him over the wall. So it's like, oh, you pass. There's this whole idea, like he has like a pen and like parchment paper, and he's like, you pass. You must shoot a flying hawk, and basically they just give him a bow and arrow. They let a hawk fly, and he like holds it up, but then someone else shoots the hawk down, and they're like, you pass. And you must wrestle a wild boar. I just wrote those down just because, you know, like the flying hawk and the wild boar just remind me of animals, lower animalistic desires. This whole idea that you have to conquer something in order to be seen as something in society, to be seen as a knight. So yeah, so he becomes a knight. The court jester then becomes a knight. So it's this whole idea of kind of like this chameleonic, snake skinny, blank slate that Hawkins, the Danny Kaye, the actor who's the character Hawkins that he plays, and he's putting on a lot of different hats. And every time he kind of, I want to say graduate, but every time he becomes a different character, it's like a different level of kind of the system that they're in. When he becomes a knight, the stakes are even higher, and it goes to show that this is necessarily how the kingdom was won, through duel, through battle, through force. This entire idea, but it's still a comedy, so it stays light. They have this and I'm only gonna, I just saw this, and I want to bring it up just because the Inspector General, you know what, no, because I would have to play it. I don't want to put it on the audio, forget it. But there's this whole like kind of what is it when you talk, wait, I do this all the time for warm-ups. Wait, what is this? Like pick it apart, parch it a pickle a pin. But there's this whole scene that's like dedicated to tongue twisters. Another bone. There's this whole scene that's dedicated to tongue twisters, and it was hilarious. It's lighthearted and it's fun. Like I said, you know, like I'm looking at it through that lens of just like society, authoritarian systems, but it does stay lighthearted. It does stay, you know, funny and fun. And basically what happens in the end is, you know, everyone's case is blown. So, you know, it's revealed that he's not the Court Jester. Hawkins is not really Giacomo the Court Jester. The maid is a part of the resistance movement. There was this inside guy who ends up getting killed off. They find out that he's a part of the resistance movement. And basically, they go to court. Of course, they go to court. They have to, you know, because that's another part. Oh, there we go. That's another part of this authoritarian system, is that they're inside a court. And they created a court system to be judged fairly. That whole idea. To be judged fairly. I mean, no facial features after that. To be judged fairly. And it's pretty obvious everyone's gonna die. You know, like the people is gonna die. What's going on, Jason Havoc? And everyone's gonna die. And so what happens is that comedic relief. The little people, you know, the clowns who was following Hawkins end up coming to save the day, and there's hundreds of them. They plan this entire coup of the kingdom. They all snuck in, and there's this entire end scene where you just see all these people helping out Hawkins, helping out Maid Jean, carrying the baby who's in the basket. And they basically wipe out the entire regime, and the baby takes the throne. And there's this huge musical number at the end. Everyone raises their hands, and that's it. That's the Court Jester. So that was kind of like a breakdown and a synopsis of the film. And I think, you know, honestly, I looked at all of the lenses as far as like, well, actually, yeah, no, the context, the esoteric references, that entire idea, just thinking about a playing card deck, like thinking about all of those archetypes. Appreciate that. No, yeah. I appreciate it. Thank you, Jason. And yeah, that entire, like thinking about like a playing deck of cards, thinking about all of those archetypes, and they were basically played out except for the queen. Except for the queen. They did not show queendom in the film. I guess to kind of highlight that entire idea of like masculine thought. It was a corrupt masculine thought that took off and kind of catapulted this entire corrupt system. I mean, who wouldn't know? Like, maybe it wouldn't have gone down that way if a queen was there, or maybe the queen. It was probably revealed in the film. I probably missed it, but maybe the queen died getting to the throne. I don't know. But anyways, going back to esoteric references like allegories, this entire idea of the fool card, and you know, like, you know, in modern times, you know, we like to say, oh, you're a fool. You know, like if someone does something stupid or someone does something dumb. But there is that, and not even necessarily to say that that's positive or negative, but there is this, there is a slight heroism to the fool. Because if you're not trying to like better yourself, or if you're not trying to be something that you're not, being the fool can be seen as a tool, no rhyme intended, kind of bars, you know, and a catalyst to change. When you stay in that pure energy, and that can be like purely ignorant or purely naive or you're purely this, you might get used by a bunch of different people, because the Court Jester, he was used by everyone for their own selfish gain. But ultimately, what he believed in was getting the baby back inside and back to the rightful throne, back to its rightful throne. And that's what ended up happening. So the Court Jester, the fool, was used throughout the entire film. And it just reminds me of that energy period and how we go about and display that. When you play a fool, like when you have a goal in your mind that damn near looks impossible, but when you stick to that kind of like naive energy, like you've never been here type of energy, a fool maybe 9 times out of 10 has been dictated by someone else. Who says that you are the fool? Because the Court Jester had skill, he had talent, he was able to entertain. That's a talent. He was able to not only entertain but keep the attention of others. and he had the gift of gab. That's a talent. So he wasn't completely useless. He wasn't completely like, he wasn't brain dead. That's not what the fool means. You know what I mean? Like these days, words just get all mixed and splattered up. Every word holds power, obviously. But this is, now that I'm even discussing it like this is what we are pointing to when we are in that space of, you know, we might have our minds, we always have our mind set on something, whether we know it or not. But say you have a goal in mind and you use that full like energy, come what may. That whole idea, like anything, like life could literally like threaten me. Like I could be literally threatened. I could be literally trolled here on StreamYard, and I can still get up on here and see the end goal of me just like breaking down and explaining this film just because it's a part of the series. So it's that whole idea, like that full character. Yeah, so that's an allegory. The myth, you know, there was myths inside. There was myths inside of the film, and the black fox, this, you know, Robin Hood character, the baby Jesus, the baby character being the rightful heir to the throne. That entire myth, you know, a new son, a new child, there's a new thought, a new king, a prince that's going to be sitting on the throne and going to be influencing, you know, the kingdom. And no, not everybody can do that. Not everybody can kind of because we want to rely on the things that we know. We don't want to not know something, and you don't gotta know everything. You don't gotta know everything. The Court Jester didn't know about all the submissions, like the subplots that was going. He was just a part of it. But yeah, no, that's a good point. And yeah, religious references. There was a priest character. You know, it wasn't. You know, it didn't get too deep because it's kind of already a given when you see a king. You already 9 times out of 10 you know that there's practicing the spells and rituals inside of the Bible. And that they got to their position because that was their belief. They created a kingdom because that was their belief to do so. And there's literally a book in the Bible called Kings. So it's like, all right, how to be a king. Like, there you go. So that's the religious reference throughout. This entire idea that there's going to be resistance, you know, it wasn't necessarily seen as demonic because the way that the resistance movement I'm referring to, wasn't necessarily demonic because the way that the director set it up was that, you know, the king got into the position in an unjust way. So that was in the film, that was established early in the film. So it's like, it's only right that the resistance movement gets there, but it goes to show that the resistance movement has less resources. They don't have an artillery, an army, until they did, because the Court Jester or Hawkins came around and he had a whole army of his friends, of his clown friends that came from the circus, his circus freaks, you know. So they do have an army. They have a mission. They have a goal. They have very strong intentions. They have a kingdom of their own. They just didn't, you know, take over a palace. A castle that was already established, which is what the former king did. Just not with these two. Yeah. And that religious reference as well was there too. That's on point. This film. You know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, like having a rating system as far as like all the lenses that I'm looking at, like maybe I don't know. I don't like rating. Just watch it or don't. Subliminal codes, color and numerology. The kingdom, their kind of logo was an 8-pointed star. Their logo was an 8-pointed star. I noticed that. And their I mean, obviously the colors are there, the aesthetic is on point. The shout out to the costume designers and all of them. The aesthetic is on point. You can see kind of like the royal fixings, the royal the detailing, the silk, you know, that kind of reminds me of subliminal messages as well. You can see obviously the king is wearing like this crowned, and he has the fur around him. That's power. You know what I'm saying? Giacomo has this kind of royal garb to him as well, because he works for the king. So he's basically royalty himself. There's this scene where they're just like, get it, got it, good. Like, I'm just like, is that where that was originated? I don't know. Like, get it, got it, good. Like that. So that's what they're doing here. You see his eyes, and this I'm kind of maybe talking about dramatic performance as well, because they're good. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like they and by that, let me shy away from those words. Like it's good, it's bad. Like they're convincible. They have this idea, like that's where they are. I'm pretty sure everyone here has, you know, theater training. It's in the details when it comes to acting to kind of convince us, the watcher, that, you know, they really are who they say they are for the film's sake. He's kind of, you know, using his gift for gab right here. He's kind of confusing the king. So that's the court jester. He's confusing the king. He's like, wait a second. He's like, are you who you say you are? Yeah, so he's just like that whole gift for gab, mercurial energy. And that reminds me, kind of like planetary influence for now I'm thinking about my own film. Or my own, it could be a film. I'm thinking about my own story. Kind of the planetary influences for the central character kind of being Mercury, and or maybe just Mercury, just this entire idea of, and then obviously some Gemini characteristics and some Virgo characteristics, like being practical, thinking fast pace, being practical, kind of moving, utilizing others to kind of get what you need to get done. Shit like that. Yeah, but I'll talk more about that in another episode where I'll just be talking about that. So this is just Media and Mythos, and I want to wrap it up here. I want to stick to about 45 minutes. But this is Media and Mythos, and so this film is called The Court Jester. It stars Danny Kaye. That's Kaye. You can find it online. I think it's on Amazon. If not, hit me up if you want to watch the film, because I have the Zoom link for it. Hit me up if you want to watch the film. And yeah, that's a cinematic influence for my upcoming original play called Black Jester, written by Jam Boom Boom as the world premiere. And this is Media Mythos. This is a segment where we're breaking down film and other media through different lenses, and doesn't necessarily have to be, you don't have to be an expert. You know, you can just watch it and say, I liked it, and that's good enough too. And so the next episode is going to be another Media Mythos, episode 6. And we're going to be breaking down, and this is like, we're taking like a complete left, because this is a completely different film, or a completely different, I keep saying film, I turned into a movie. This is going to be a completely different play, and it's called Think Pink, inspired by Nicki Minaj. And it's going to be her rise to fame, like before we knew her. And kind of like a biographical, comedic, you know, obviously fiction. And so for episode 6, we're going to break down her special that aired in 2010, in which is it's a documentary, but that's the influence that I use to write Think Pink, or I'm going to use to write Think Pink. Well, thanks for joining me, Jam Boom Boom, as the world premiere. I hope y'all take care, keep experiencing, and we out.